What is up, everybody? Jeremy Miller back here with another episode of the Hire and Fire podcast. This one's number 7. We titled it, I Don't Give a Crap. It's getting dropped late because of Thanksgiving. At least that's the story I'm telling myself. And today's episode talks about why people ignore you, what that says about them, how you should handle it, etc. So enjoy the show. Hi there again, everybody. Jeremy Miller, Pyra Consulting, back with another episode of the Hire and Fire podcast, joined today once again by your friendly account executive, Chad Sandy.
Good afternoon.
How are you, Chad? Podcast number 7 of the Hire and Fire show, brought to you by Pyra Consulting. Today, our topic is I don't give a crap. Why people ignore you, what that says about them, how you should handle it. So we're going to talk about, basically this topic surrounding clients and consultants or even recruiters ignoring candidates. But this is clearly applicable just on a human level. Do you agree or disagree, Chad Sandy?
That people don't give a crap?
Well, I just mean the ways that people ignore you, blow you off, whether you think that's rude or not in business is the same as any other area. Why your server ignored you, why the guy on the road wasn't paying attention, you're in a relationship and your significant other either doesn't call you back or doesn't reply. Like, it's all kind of the same basic human conversation.
Yeah.
Dynamic.
If I was to sum it up, the podcast would be over.
So we're done.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you again next week.
I'd say it boils down to what's in it for me, of course.
Oh.
Right.
Double dip into last week's topic.
Yeah, what's in it for me? We could get into sort of the cliches, which are true, of course. The hiring manager is ignoring you because you're not bringing any value to him,
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's, he doesn't give a crap about you because what's in it for him?
Yeah.
What do you bring? Why should I call? Why should I answer your call? Why should I answer your email?
So
I'm busy. My phone's blowing up.
Sorry, perfect. Let's go first with the why in the hell account managers get ignored by salespeople, and we'll try and cover different. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Why account managers get ignored by hiring managers?
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that?
Well, I think it does boil down to these people. Their phones are blowing up. They get calls all the time. At least that's the feedback I get. Salespeople are constantly calling, pounding phones. Hey, would love to grab lunch. Would love to. They're saying the same stuff, the same crap.
We'd like to be another resource for you.
Yeah, we really would love to grab lunch and share more about what we can bring to the table and learn more about your organization.
Right.
And so I think there's just such a general lack of originality in our industry, and
I think that's every industry, but
their phones are blowing up.
Yeah.
So they're ignoring everything.
Well, all right. That is a little focused on people that you don't know. So if you're doing true cold calling, either you have an account with that existing customer or you don't. That naturally is what you're going to be getting at the beginning. You're going to be getting the stiff arm like crazy. I'm presuming it's as simple as a few reasons. A, they already have established vendors that they're working with. B, they don't have a need, so it's not even on their radar. C, they just don't give a shit because they feel like you're a dime a dozen. It's kind of a combination of reasons.
And I would even say the hiring managers that I have relationships with that are established.
Sure.
You say, well, geez, why you've placed 4 people there in the last couple months. Why isn't the guy picking up the phone? Is because the importance of the phone call, at least the perceived importance of that phone call, it's not as important to him as it is to me. For me, it might be one of only just 2-3 things I got left to do today. For him, it's just one of 50 things that are on his list.
And you're number 51?
And I'm number 51. And whatever it is can wait. That kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I get sold to now more than I used to because I run this place, so people see the title and they think that they want to get a hold of me. What's funny is I will do back to other people what they do to me, even though it pisses me the hell off. Mm-hmm. So I hate being ignored. I would rather you tell me to fuck off than ignore me, 100%.
Yeah.
So I don't fit really well in the Minnesota nice passive aggressive. I would rather not answer you than tell you no. And that's true around here. It doesn't work that way everywhere in the world, let alone everywhere in the country. But the reality of this for me is I experience that too. If you're not providing me value, I'm going to ignore you. But if you're consistent, even annoyingly consistent, eventually I'm going to get back to you. Now, it's going to be on my terms. So I'm more likely to reply to your email than to call you back and tell you no, because it's dismissive, easy, and I can get cut to the chase and not waste any time. Yeah. But again, I subconsciously have a ton of empathy for them because I'm in a freaking sales industry.
Yeah.
So like, it's the same thing with stupid things like tipping. If you've never worked for tips, you don't fucking get it. Even if you understand the math and you understand that's how the people get paid, you've never had to go into work hoping that you get tipped, or leave work not making tips, or leave work after making a ton of money on tips and how good you feel, right? If you've ever done that, you're empathetic, you're sympathetic, and you tend to over tip people. But even in this arena, even though I'm empathetic and sympathetic, I'm still just as likely to blow people off. However, if you're consistent, you'll hear back from me eventually, but consistently people will only reach out to me 2 or 3 times and they're done.
Yeah. I try to practice what I'm preaching a little bit, to the extent that when I get solicitation LinkedIn's, messages, or emails, unless they're spam-ish looking, I try to answer right away. I got a recruiter message last week. Someone's hiring. They reached out to me. They don't know me, I don't know them. But I responded right away. I'm sitting at my desk working, it popped up, and I just quickly replied, appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not interested. I'll put my feelers out.
Yeah.
And so then now I can put that to bed. That person then replied, said thanks, and then that was it.
Yeah.
Had they replied with some more follow-up questions and whatnot, at that point I probably would have ignored it, because I think I already did put it to bed, the first response.
Yeah.
So I try to do that. The thinking being, if I don't, I'm going to continue getting potentially the unnecessary crap. Whereas when I get some of that, what looks like spam emails, I probably should reply and just say, please take me off the list, or thanks, but I'm not interested, or we don't use their...
Yeah, but to your point, there's only so much time in the day, so you're more likely to blow those people off too.
Yeah. But I do get that it does get a little irritating. Obviously, we're in a sales business, so there's a lot of cold calling, cold emailing, LinkedIn messaging, and this has happened to me a bunch, where I'll finally get a hold of a hiring manager, and maybe it took a referral for an intro somewhere else. And I might say in my opening, just circling back or following up on my email, and the person will say, yep, I saw that. And I'll be thinking, well, Christ, I sent you 4 emails and 3 LinkedIn's,
yes,
and 4 voicemails, and now you just acknowledged you didn't see it. And I do sometimes am thinking to myself, why didn't you just shoot me a quick 1-line email?
Okay, agreed, but TV time out on this, and this is good for any parties involved in this regard. I mean, let's spin it real quick to another direction. Recruiters reaching out to job seekers, whether you're looking or not, all we're really looking for is a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you reply and say no thank you, for the most part, we're going to leave you alone. At least I'm of that opinion. Now, maybe people have had different experience. But, we're just looking for something, right? So to a certain extent, your consistency is probably what wore that person down to the degree that you finally got I got this email, or I got this whatever. But in general, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Because we need to reach out on some level. And some people we have to track down. They are hiring managers at our clients. Our job is to sell to them. We're being held accountable to do that. So we got to be reaching out. So we're looking for something, anything. So if you're looking for a way to get rid of people, in my opinion, the easiest way is to respond with a no thank you. And for the most part, people go away.
Right.
They don't push back too hard.
Otherwise, it just keeps dragging on.
The nature of being ignored. when you're selling something to anybody in our industry, that's to either candidates or hiring managers, we understand that a high percentage of people that we are reaching out to are either not looking, not interested already. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. But statistically, forever in human history has been proven that if you keep asking enough, you're going to find people that are interested or that you can talk to. So that's why we have to keep reaching out.
Yeah. I also think, and this doesn't apply to only sales, just in general. I don't give a crap. What does it say about you when people don't respond to whatever it is? Because I get irritated. I have a couple friends and one relative that never pick up the phone when I call them unless they need something.
Oh, okay.
And so
that's an interesting caveat.
And, so that gets a little irritating.
Sure.
I would say, maybe one tip, maybe if you apply it to sales, but I really don't want this statement to be about sales. But if the only time you're reaching out to somebody for whatever reason, friend, business, sales, doesn't matter, is because you want something from them.
Yeah.
I think then your I don't give a crap factor from the recipient goes way up.
Yeah.
And I have found that with some of my hiring manager contacts, once I've established some relationship with them, that if I mix in some calls or some emails or some LinkedIn messages where it's not sales related at all, it might be just some article I saw post on their company. Maybe they won an award for cleanliness or something. I don't know. And so there's no sales involved. Just, hey, I see you were one of the top philanthropic companies.
Yeah.
They tend to appreciate.
Congrats, or do you even care?
No, but I tend to get then more responses because I what it feels like, and I may be wrong, but it feels like they're saying, yeah, I'm responding to you now because every time I hear from you, it's not because you're selling something.
Yeah, because you need something.
Right.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, family, friends, significant others, they're obviously hugely different types of relationships. But as a general rule for me, I just, it is so infuriating to be completely ignored. Mm-hmm. So if somebody wants to get at me intentionally, ignoring me is a really good ploy.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think everybody works that way, but I think a lot of people work that way, where they just want some type of reciprocal communication. Like, just freaking get back to me. Think about all the different circumstances we run into in dealing with candidates where we're trying to get... Now, they've already told us in most times they're interested in new jobs, that this is why they're looking. It might even be urgent. But us having to baby step them, hold their hand through the process because we can't get anything from them. Updated resumes. Hey, I sent you this job. Did you have a chance to review it? What do you think? Can we talk about it? Hey, I have an interview request for you, and I called you twice yesterday, and I'm calling you again now in addition to my emails, and you never got back to me. The reciprocal nature is what really becomes infuriating. Mm-hmm. Now, we understand there's a numbers game behind it, but nonetheless, I don't really just... Where do you think the root of the... just putting people... Where do you think the root of putting people off comes from? Are you automatically saying you just don't give a damn if you don't reply?
No, I think, I still go back to the what's in it for me piece, but I think people are busy. So it becomes the squeaky wheel of life. If it's urgent enough, my life is so busy. So pick the topic we're on, it doesn't matter. Why didn't you pick up when your mom called? I don't know. I was driving. I'm tired. I don't feel like answering.
Yeah, totally. Why didn't you reply to that text message? Well, in text messages are an interesting medium too, because for me, my email is really friggin' organized.
Yeah.
If it's in my inbox, it's always left unread. That means there's something that needs to be done, whether it's urgent or not. And I will get to it eventually, and then it gets deleted. I'm very methodical there. But if you text me and I read that damn thing, that little one notification's going away on my text message app, and I'm probably not going to remember. Mm-hmm. So if there's any type of communication for me personally, I'm most likely to screw up. It would be replying to a text that I read because I didn't reply immediately.
Yeah.
But I'm the type where if you leave me a voicemail, I won't even check it, let alone call you back.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of reaching out to anybody that you're trying to get a hold of by spraying it around.
Yeah. Doesn't your voicemail actually say?
It literally says, "I never check this. Don't bother leaving
Yeah.
me a message."
You know, while we're sitting here thinking, though, I mean, I do have a friend, and I would consider him a friend in my community that I live in, so he's not a childhood friend or anything. And I will say he rarely picks up the phone when I call him. And oftentimes he doesn't even return the call. And when he does, it might be days. And I will say, I feel, if I was going to be honest, well, Chad, how does that really make you feel?
Okay.
And I can say, well, you know what? He's a busy guy. He's running a business. He's got his family. But honestly, cutting through the bullshit, I'm like, I don't think he really cares about me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
You know, he just doesn't care.
Well, see, I agree because I see all of that shit. And I think we're all addicted to our phones enough to be able to see it. Now, if you're a job seeker or a hiring manager and I hit you up on LinkedIn, it just may not be something you check all the time. And I totally get that.
Yeah.
But if I have your mobile number, your email, we're connected on specific types of social media. Like you and I know that you're looking at one of those three all the damn time.
Yeah.
So what my mind ends up doing is running to the "you're ignoring me on purpose" end.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm just a little effed up mentally in that regard.
Yeah.
Where I'm busy too. I run a company. I have kids. I have stuff going on. But like, unless I'm literally in the middle of a meeting face to face, like you and I are right now, where I can't reply, you're going to get a reply from me pretty freaking fast.
Yeah. I think also our current, the culture or societal status with all the social media, you know, I'm 51. The days when I was a kid of where you had a phone in your house, and oftentimes you didn't even, there were no, answering machines were not a common thing when I was a child. So when you called a house and it rang and rang and rang and kept ringing and ringing and ringing, then you just hung up.
Yes.
Because nobody's home.
Correct.
There was no auto voicemail, and it wasn't until I was probably a teenager when, you know, the physical voicemail box.
With the tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you called, it rang, no one answered, no one's home. You called, got a busy signal, phone's busy, call back in a little bit. Now with social media and with everybody being connected all the time, everyone's got a phone, so we're all connected. We're walking around with our device.
Miniature computers in our pockets.
Sure. It'd be like back when I was a kid if everyone walked around with their telephone attached to them.
Yeah.
And because of that, we're all available and accessible all the time. And so now, as where before, if 10 people tried calling my house and I wasn't around, it was no big deal. No one's feeling like no one cares because no one knows who was calling.
And it's the friggin' norm. Where
Yes.
if you're calling somebody and you don't get a hold of them,
So-
it's common for you to not get a hold of them.
Right. So if I called you and your phone rang 10 times or 5 or 3 and I hung up, I didn't hang up going, what the hell? He's not calling me back.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know I was calling. So you didn't know what you didn't know, and I didn't know what I didn't know, and all was good. The problem is now we all know exactly when we're all trying to reach each other. So we're all being inundated with contacts in some way, shape, or form in many different forms of media, email, text, phone calls. And frankly, I think we don't have time. We don't have time to answer every single call, every single text right away. And then using my friend as an example, even if he's means well, when he sees, oh, missed call from Chad or call from Chad, I'm going to ignore it. Even if he means well, I'm going to call him back on my way home from work. On his way home from work, you might have 27 other calls coming in, and life is just so busy, and we know of every single person attempting to reach us. I mean, my mother blows up my phone. Okay,
Yeah.
She does. Well, she's retired.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
She's a widow. She's by herself. She's got all sorts of time, and when she tries calling me and I don't answer, no big deal.
Yeah,
But
and I get it, but I have to call bullshit immediately because this is proving my point, right? Where people are ignoring you on purpose.
Okay, but I will say that.
But you're giving them a pass because of the fact that there is a lot of shit going on, right?
Right.
And you are in times where you're getting out of the car, walking into a meeting. You can't answer a phone call.
Yeah.
Or you're in the middle of dealing with something with your kids, whether it's a sporting event or whatever.
Yeah.
There are those times, but the callback follow-up perspective, that, in my opinion, doesn't lie. Because you are, once you're no longer immediately being distracted, then you start prioritizing.
Okay, but let me put it this way. You're not even 40 yet.
We're
okay.
going age. You
But
age
let's-
discriminating asshole.
I know, it's what I do.
It's true. I'm 38 years old. Continue.
So let's put yourself. Let's both go back to the 80s, to the time when people had phones with no caller ID or voicemail systems.
Yeah, I follow.
Where you didn't have every day 10, 20, 30 people to respond to for some reason. Okay, so I would just say now, if I responded to every single call I got, email I got, LinkedIn I got, even if I didn't have time to respond in the moment when it happened, I feel like it's not that I don't give a crap, but I have to prioritize.
I know.
Squeaky wheel.
I know.
It's not that I don't care, but I just don't have time to literally connect with every single, or to engage with every single connection attempt that comes my way. And I think, speaking of sales, hiring managers are the same way. They're so freaking busy that they just don't have the time to respond. So forget the ones they weed out. They don't have time to respond to the ones that they actually speak with or need to talk to, or the email comes in and it is important. Even those sometimes just don't make the priority list.
Yeah.
So
But if you're willing to make it important, you will. So just a stupid example. Recently, I'm selling my house. So every single time we do something, my realtor needs a new updated whatever those auto signature things are on the web nowadays. Mm-hmm. And he will send it to me, and I get my personal email pretty regularly. However, if I'm busy and he doesn't get a reply to that pretty quickly, he'll text me. And I'm going to reply to that immediately. So I'm going to get that sucker done in the next. So I'm going to make time to make it important. However, even though we all do this bullshit of we're so busy and blah, 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 we're still sneaking in all kinds of web surfing throughout the day. All of our personal, 100% personal social media perusings. We are watching 4 hours of Netflix a night. Like, we all have time, period. You, however, are prioritizing what is most important to you. And that makes sense because there are times where you're like, enough, dude. I'm freaking unplugging and I'm watching Netflix for the 2 hours, for these next 2 hours. I think the basic debate comes down to, are people ignoring you because you're not consistent enough? Are they ignoring you because they're too busy? Or are they ignoring you because they just don't give a shit? And the problem is you never know which one of the three. So you have to follow up with consistency to be able to kind of figure it out and then learn their method. Yeah. Because they all prioritize method of responses as well.
Yeah.
Where you're going to get a text from me immediately, an email even faster, maybe a little less fast, excuse me. The next level would be an email reply, and then if you're leaving me a voicemail, you're never going to hear back from me.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of puts their methods of communication in a priority, their response time in a priority, but you never really know whether or not you're being ignored or they genuinely meant to get back to you and they screwed it up or forgot or whatever.
So let me ask you something. So you're trying to reach somebody, and they're not responding. You've already said it kind of drives you nuts. But
sure.
How does it make you feel, or what do you think it says about you?
Okay, good question. Again, I've already admitted I'm more likely to feel like it's being done on purpose. So I'm more likely to internalize that, which may or may not be fair. I'm doing my best to give people the benefit of the doubt regarding speed, So I would love for you to get back to me immediately, but the speed has a little bit of flexibility. But the day over day, week over week, especially patterns that are formed, you're saying something with that. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, that's how my mind does it. However, one of my friends, when I asked him about this, and I said, help me understand your texting. And this is a female, if that matters. And she said, you're either going to get an immediate reply or you may never hear back from me again. But that doesn't really answer whether or not it was done on purpose. I just presumed that meant it's not on purpose. But for me, I internalize that.
Yeah.
Are you the opposite? Are you the benefit of the doubt guy?
Well, I was actually thinking of a story where my Uncle Mick, and if he's ever listening to one of these, I love you, Mick.
We're going to get you eventually, Mick.
Yes, we are. My Uncle Mick used to be a radio executive, and when he retired, he was with CBS Radio. And he was a close uncle. He was a mentor. He was my mom's brother, okay? And early and throughout my career, I had regular, semi-regular breakfasts with Mick. Like every quarter, or even when it slowed down 2-3 times a year, okay? Breakfast with Mick, just catching up, talking biz. Like I said, he was a mentor to me.
Yeah.
And for much of that time, Mick was 18 years older than me, 20 years older. He's my uncle. And I'd have the hardest time reaching the guy. Leaving voicemails, leaving messages, calling his freaking assistant to schedule breakfast with them.
Yeah.
And you know what I came to realize is he didn't give a crap.
Okay.
But I was okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I kind of understood where his life was.
Your priority level.
And where my life was.
Yes.
And here's the irony.
Yes.
Here's what validated that. Mick retired 3 years ago. We still have breakfasts. But guess who's calling who now?
He's calling you.
He's calling me, and guess who's avoiding him?
No.
Not avoiding.
You're playing the game? Are you trying to get back at him? For all those years, damn you, Mick.
Yeah. So when he calls me now he's the one with all the time.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's busy.
Yes.
So oftentimes when he calls, I'm too busy to answer.
Yeah.
He'll leave a voicemail. How are you doing? I'm going to be down in the cities. Let's grab breakfast. And then I'll get back to him at some point. Or it might be a while before I get back to him. And so over these last 2-3 years, I came to feel validated about my feelings that, yep, Mick doesn't give a crap. But I'm okay with that because I understand his schedule and I understand my schedule.
Sure.
And maybe that's part of it is when I call hiring managers, yeah, they don't give a crap about me. And I'm cool with that. It's not going to stop me from continuing.
Right.
In other words, it's not personal.
Okay, I love this. This is perfect because this really breaks down the different relationship type connection, right? Business, friend, family, significant other, and there's a lot of times there's rules inside of those relationships where you kind of get how the other person works, when they're most likely to be available, the method of communication that's easiest to get a hold of them. If they're short with you on text message, you can not be surprised because that's kind of the norm, right? Whatever the relationship is. And I think that should be the guiding force in expectations. So if you're in a dating, marriage, serious relationship situation, then the rules are kind of different. And if one of the two is violating that by either ignoring massive delayed responses, very short, like the other person's probably going to call them on it pretty quickly.
Yep.
But if it's a friendship, then you kind of understand there's a little bit more distance here. And we're friends. You're living your own life. I'm living my own life. Like, we're just going to interweave whenever it makes sense. And we're both kind of mutually obliged here to figure out how to keep the relationship going. And then over time, it kind of bobs and weaves, right? Like, who's the one doing the majority of the reach outs? In business, we know that we are the initiator.
Yep.
Until the relationship reaches a point where we've either gained a deeper relationship or exclusivity, and then you can start to assume that it goes back and forth. That's kind of the nature of it. So I think the majority of the I don't give a crap type mentality is either A, when the relationship's new, or B, when it's being figured out. So if you are dating somebody and you just started dating, you're in this weird figure it out type period. And then eventually the communication itself will become a topic about the seriousness of the relationship. Mm-hmm. And then vice versa in regards to different family related communication as well, because you make up the joke, but it's kind of it's only funny because it's true when you have parents lighting you up. Yeah. Especially when they're older and you've been an adult for a long time and you kind of do the dance around. Yeah. Right? So the relationship thing's a big deal. What I struggle with, and I would presume almost everybody does, is how do you know when you're being ignored? Do you know if the other person is trying to send you a message by not getting back to you? How do you approach that by actually bringing that up to them the next time you speak with them? Like this human interaction thing sounds like it should be easy, but it's very, very complicated.
Yeah.
With feelings and history and trust and all that stuff.
Yeah. But it's funny. It's just funny. I'll reach out to people through LinkedIn that I say used to play rec hockey with.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I'm hearkening back to when we were Labatt's drinking buddies on the hockey team. And I'm thinking, I drop a couple lines about the old hockey days and then I'll get some response. Nothing. This actually just happened. And then I'll think, well, obviously he doesn't give a shit.
You fucker! Because stop being rude.
Right. Whether or not, my ulterior motive was to get business, of course. Eventually. But the initial, hi, how do you do, and let's catch up, the fact that person didn't respond, this is very recent, that's why I thought.
But even if it wasn't business related, the overthinking what could happen, did happen, should happen, is probably where I would get myself in more trouble than I should. Because again, you're reaching out to this guy on LinkedIn. He might have LinkedIn connected to his personal email that is full of 8,000 junk emails because he's had the same Yahoo account since 1996.
Right.
Or it could be directly connected to his work email and he sees it immediately.
Yeah. And conversely, the person who picks up, we all have those handful of people, personal or business. When that person picks up every time you call, I find myself thinking, we all have those, right? You call them, they pick up.
Yeah.
Wow, they like me. Then you feel kind of good about it. And I have a couple clients that way, that for whatever reason, they pick up the phone every time I call. And they might even pick up to say, hey, Chad, glad you called. But I'm literally going to be stepping into a meeting and maybe they're bullshitting me, but they still picked up the phone. Mm-hmm. And then you go from where when they're not picking up, you're wondering why and overthinking it to...
See, I actually think, sorry to interrupt you, but I actually think that calling dynamic is an age thing. Mm. Because I think if you are about my age or older, where you grew up, the majority, if not all of your youth was spent without technology. I didn't have a cell phone until I was 20 or something like that, give or take. Mm-hmm. You were used to answering the phone, and you're kind of programmed to that. And nowadays, think about the cell phone plans themselves. They don't even give a shit about the minutes anymore because nobody cares.
Right.
Because no one's really on the phone. So it's all about text and email communication via different platforms.
Yeah.
And people aren't answering the phone.
Yeah.
And a lot of people the majority of people don't have home phones anymore. And a lot of it goes back to what you mentioned earlier, where there's the presupposition of, I already know that when I call this person, there's a high likelihood they're not available. You're calling someone's house phone, even when the internet came around. Remember when you didn't have a second line. So when someone was on the internet, AOL dial-up crap, they were taking over the home phone.
Yep.
So you could call that phone 8 times over 10 hours and the frickin' phone's busy every single time, and you just got used to it. I tried to explain this to my kids the other day. I'm like, so check this out. I'm in high school when pagers are big. So everybody thinks they're cool because they have a pager. But you can't even text back with these things. So we develop these weird number codes, right, for what everything means. But even if you're trying to find your friends on a Friday, you page one of them and you sit there and wait. And if they don't call back to the number to call you where you're stuck waiting for them to reply, you end up leaving.
Yeah.
Then they call, you're not available, they page you back. Now you're driving, you have to find the gas station, and hopefully somebody has a quarter to be able to use the payphone and to be able to page them. Like, it was just a way of life, and it's not that way anymore. Right. So that understanding level of a lack of communication is understandably way low.
Sure.
Because if you're blowing me off for a few days, like, you're doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Especially if I tried a few different times and a few different ways to get a hold of you. And naturally, I will start to think that you're blowing me off on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
But I am the type who's willing to say, it's been tough getting a hold of you. Like, are we still on the same page here? And a lot of people don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
So we play this technological communication dance.
Yeah. It's funny because in business, it's almost like the rules are established. I must pound your phone and hit you up all the time with emails. Nothing personal. And then
you must ignore me.
You must ignore me and blow you off. Nothing personal.
Yes.
And hopefully and then when the day ends, we punch the clock and we're like the coyote and the sheepdog and we go home together.
Yeah.
You know, that kind
and we shake hands.
And we shake hands.
We were enemies and now we're friends.
Yeah.
Until tomorrow when we're
It's this-
battling again.
Yeah, it's this beautiful dance of war.
Yeah.
You know.
See, but what I wish more people were is just more forthright and direct. And I think we could avoid so much of the communication shenanigans if people would just reply and be honest. Mm-hmm. I'm not interested. This is a bad time. This is not on my radar. I had a guy reach out to me a couple of years ago that I knew from my church, and he was the local city farmers insurance guy. Oh. I like him. I'd be totally open to supporting his business and saving money on insurance, but I don't give a shit about insurance. And even if I can save money, the desire for me to go figure out how to log into my homeowner's insurance and get into my car insurance to be able to send you the 38-page document.
Let me interrupt. So I just want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let's say that guy, because I'm guessing when he would call you or hit you up in church or whatever,
yes,
he was doing the politey business
100%.
speak. Would it have made a difference? I'm curious. This is off the cuff, non-scripted. I just want to know.
As if we script anything. But continue.
But what if he called you and said, "Look, Jeremy, I know you don't give a shit about insurance, and it probably at the end of the day really doesn't matter who you use for insurance." But it does to me. What are the had he tried just kind of a real, I guess I'll call it raw but real approach versus the try to be polished, robotic, right? Nice.
Well,
polite.
Interesting point, because he was asking me if you can just send me the copies of your policies. I'll find you something cheaper or better or both. Yeah. And I believed him. Right, but like the reality of me wanting to stop what I'm doing, even to save money, like because the hassle to be able to look up my policies was not even worth the saving money to me. And I was honest to him. He'd send me an email once a month just checking in. Like, he was doing his thing. And I'd be like, dude, like, not on my radar. Even if I have time and I'm bored, the last thing I want to do is go look into my freaking Progressive car insurance account to figure out what's my password and then the reset password link and the where the hell's the document. And however, interesting point. That line itself, based on our relationship, might have been helpful.
Sure.
Because if he would have been like, I get it, you don't really care, but like, I'm really doing what I can to be able to help as many friends and family, and I consider you a friend. It would help me, and I want to help you. Can you just put it higher up on your urgency list?
Yeah.
I probably would have done it.
Yeah. I'm even talking a little more raw. You don't care probably who you use for insurance, but I do. Trying to build my business. Yeah. I really need the business. I need the business, and you probably don't give a shit where you get your car insurance. If I'm in the ballpark of what you're paying, can we just do this?
Yeah, that probably would, especially with a guy like me who would have appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being less polished on purpose.
Less formal, less polished. Yeah.
Now, that method of communication would probably go pretty well, but you have to be beyond a certain Mendoza line with the comfort of the relationship. So it's got to be something that's already at least partially established.
Right.
Because I get the email thing. I'm trying to think of the terminology, and it seems like it's becoming a more prevalent script with emails and LinkedIn's, where it could be a few things. If you didn't see my original communication, or if you ignored it, or if you deleted it, or if you don't care,
Right.
and I appreciate that, but I see it often enough where I'm like, yeah, you already know that I'm ignoring you.
Because I'm sitting here thinking now, the same kind of story, different, but relating it to business. I had a hockey parent friend. So we were friends in terms of we were hockey parents in the same community. And she's a C-level, she's a CIO at a company in town here. And in one of my previous jobs, and I did it here as well, by the way, I tried to reach out to her and meet with her, and obviously trying to do business with that client. And nothing. And you know what? She don't give a crap, and I realize that. But she's nice, and if someone were to ask her, what do you think of Chad Sandy? She'd say, nice guy, and knew him from hockey when his kids were young, and our kids were young, and whatever. But sometimes I do wonder, what if I would have just tried leaving her a message and saying, look, I know that you're not the right person when it comes to staffing, but you probably don't really really care who the vendors are. So, had I tried, maybe if I tried something more raw, I wonder if I'd have more success. Now, the rawness would have to be a little more professional. Do you know what I'm saying? But not quite so cleaned up and squeaky clean. And,
but I would argue that yes, the words and the delivery and the tone and all that can be obviously very important, but the root of what you're talking about is just more consistent, intentional follow-up.
Yeah.
Because she might have ignored a few reach outs via LinkedIn or emails, but if you ran into her at the flipping grocery store and brought it up and was cool about it and just be like, hey, I've been trying to get a hold of you. When can I get a hold of you? But the consistency in different methods, face-to-face, over the phone, text message, email, social media, like as long as you're trying different platforms, that continues to be the thing that regularly unimpresses me about people that are trying to sell to me, that 1 out of 20, 1 out of 30 people that reach out to me will ever try anything besides just via text. Text in email, text in a social media thing. Like my phone doesn't ring very often here. And my phone number is easy to find. So it's just interesting that people just kind of give up. And maybe that's because of the fact that anybody younger than 40 has grown up in a environment of communication where you don't talk to as many people over the phone.
Right.
I don't know where the hell that comes from.
Well, we've become accustomed to ignoring each other, maybe. How's that
I guess,
sound?
yeah. But being ignored, do they care? It's obviously tough to know, but if let's flip the script. If you're a candidate and you're trying to get a hold of a staffing company, or you're trying to get a hold of HR, or you're trying to reach out to a manager directly, normally you kind of feel like you only have so many attempts at communication before you're being rude. If you're reaching out to HR of a major corporation, if you're reaching out to the hiring manager directly, you almost have to kind of, I'll just ask you, do you think you should only reach out once or twice? Or should you be that person who's so energetic and ready to go and interested that you just kind of hound people, even running the risk of driving them crazy?
You're talking about if I'm a candidate.
Yes.
If I'm a candidate and the person I'm trying to reach, I've never spoke with. I have no connection. But whether or not I know they're the right contact or not, I think there probably comes a point where you stop. But I have an example. My son's looking for his next role right now. He got a referral, was told to send your resume to so and so. He did. the person responded on email saying, thanks, I'll make sure I get this to the right person. That person now, this was a referral. Hey, yeah, they're hiring. Reach out to this person. Get them your resume. That person, I would pound that guy.
Yep.
I would pound that guy till he says quit. Because you know what? You came to me. I didn't even know you existed
Right.
till the referral said to reach out to
Right.
you. I'm just following the orders here.
And I think dealing with staffing companies is the same way. If you're a candidate and you're dealing with a recruiter, for the most part, we're coming to you. Every once in a while, you're the person that applied or whatever. But nonetheless, like, I think if you're a candidate, you should expect a high level of communication from your staffing company. And if you're not getting that, you should be hounding them. Because that's what we do for a freaking living.
Yeah.
And you should not be blown off, or you shouldn't even be afraid to reach out to someone's manager.
Yeah, I used to work with a recruiter that if he made, so I'm the recruiter now, and I make contact with you, the candidate. Whether I reach out to you or you found me, doesn't matter, but we now establish a working relationship and you are looking for your next role. And now I'm flipping the script back a little bit, but same difference. If now I owe you follow-up, but maybe you got other irons in the fire that look really good and you're not answering my calls, I'm going to pound your ass until you call me back because you're the one that was looking.
Yes,
you
correct.
And so I just flipped it right there, but same difference. We're working together.
Yes.
You want me to follow up
You
with...
told me you wanted this, correct. And
Yeah.
and I think with the candidate towards a staffing company, that's really, really easy. Candidate towards HR, you have to dance a little bit. You can follow up very consistently with those people multiple times and not feel like you're alienating yourself. Mm-hmm. The hiring manager directly is where I would start to tread a little bit of water. And I would give it probably 1 or 2 attempts. Hey, it was nice to meet you whenever we met, or hey, it was good to talk with you on the phone the other day. And you mentioned you had a process to do. Totally get it. Just trying to understand if I'm being moved on, or if you're interviewing other people, or whatever the situation is. But again, what's the root of this? Just consistent communication and follow up. It's really not challenging. So you, for the most part, once you've been given the green light to be able to follow up with anybody, I would consistently until you get it answered. Even in that situation with the referral for your son where you mentioned the resume, I'd be bugging that person 3-4 times. Then I'm reaching out to the person that referred.
Yes.
And saying, hey, you told me to get a hold of this guy and I'm struggling. Can you help me? Can you send him a note or whatever?
Yep. And my feeling there would be if I go too far and annoy the shit out of the guy, and so he basically says, look, stop calling me. It turns out we ain't got nothing. Great. I just lost something that I never had in the first place.
Fair point.
Right?
Fair point.
And I would also say, same with the candidate, the recruiter calling the candidate. If we've established that initial relationship, it's actually right and salutary, as they would say, that I should follow up with you consistently, and I'm going to pound you. And if until you basically say, "Look, I got another job. Quit calling me."
Yeah.
Great. I just lost something that I never had in the first place. Now, I think where it changes a little bit when the candidate is following up with the recruiter. I do agree that they should pound them. They should hammer them, right? But I also think the line that comes to them is a little bit different in the sense that if I got to hound you, Mr. Recruiter or Miss Recruiter, I don't know if you're the right staffing company that I want to work with.
100%.
If I got to be the one chasing you. So I'm going to be persistent and consistent to a point, but then I'm probably going to fire you as a staffing company that I'll want to work with.
Yeah.
At that point, it would end.
All right, so stripping some of the bullshit here to go fun with this.
Yeah.
We've both been in the staffing business a long time, so let's tell embarrassing stories about the staffing firm that we know is a reality. You meet with somebody and you don't like them. Whatever the reason is. They're unbelievably shy. So shy that you don't even make eye contact. You got the limp noodle handshake. Like, awkward. I don't even know if this person will be able to interview well. I don't know if I can help them. or other ends of the spectrum where maybe no matter what you did, you could not get them to shut up. And they talked your ear off. I don't care what verbal, non-verbals you gave them. They like literally don't have that switch that says, I have to shut up now.
Yep.
Or any other thousands of circumstances as to how we have evaluated that somebody is either going to be a struggle for us to help and or somebody that we could only help in certain circumstances. Mm-hmm. Like this is a real thing. Mm-hmm. So it's very possible that you could be a candidate and you have notes in a database somewhere about how an interview that you had with a recruiter didn't go well. And you can be actually treated, hopefully not poorly, but you could be dismissed because of some of those things. Even if I wasn't sure if I could help somebody, I would always tell them the exact same thing, which is 100% true. As soon as I have a job for you that will fit, I will let you know. If you are an individual that is so shy and so quiet that it's tough to even get you to talk, you're kind of eliminated from 80 to 90% of the jobs that I have open. There's only so many jobs where we can put you in the basement where you don't interface with people, mm-hmm. right? So, however, even if you're in a circumstance where you're being blown off by a staffing company, you still have the right to be able to ask them, like, what's going on? Am I not experienced enough? Are you not interested in working with me? Now you're almost assuredly going to be blown off, but I would be asking just to be able to figure it out, because if you have the right person that you're connected with, they will be honest with you. I was honest with everybody that I worked with.
So you basically said, don't call me, I'll call you.
Well, not exactly, but my point was I met with you, and my job is to provide candidates to our clients that fit the mold of what they're looking for. And human beings are so different. Some companies want people that are super outgoing, some people don't. Some companies want people that are money motivated, right? There's 1,000 different things. So my job was to be able to understand what skills and abilities and personality and all that you're bringing to the table and then match you to the right clients. And I have the same obligation backwards. I have to be able to listen to what you want and give you what you're looking for. And I have to match you on skills, on demographic, on culture fit, on communication style. Think of one of the recs that we have on the board right now. They need somebody to come in and be the driver of this initiative. You might be able to do it with your eyes closed, but if you're not a driver, you're not the right fit. So I can honestly say that's not a good fit for you. And that's my obligation to be able to know that and to put you in a good position, whether it's your strength or your weakness. We have to be able to address both of those. And I think a lot of people are being ignored for that reason. And that's unfair, but just a freaking fact. So how do you dance around that as a candidate? I'm basically, if you feel like you're getting ignored by a recruiter, you can write them off, right? Mm-hmm. Like they have to be able to help you or else you're not going to work with them. Or you could even consider following up with another recruiter inside of the same organization trying to understand what's going on. But again, the root of all of this is just being able to have consistent, open communication with how recruiters deal with candidates, what experience candidates have with the recruiters, so that we can have a mutually beneficial experience. Because what we're looking for, sometimes you aren't. And what we're looking for is sometimes what you exactly are. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of depends. That there's a whiffum, a what's in it for me component in even the communication.
Yeah. I used to say, when I was on the recruiting side and I would meet with candidates, if it became obvious that this person is probably not very placeable, either through personality or skill set, my spiel always turned to sort of, I set expectations in terms of frequency of contact, and maybe I accomplish the same thing that you just mentioned, and I may go down the road of, the vast majority of our roles fall under these kind of buckets. Boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
And that obviously, Mr. or Miss Candidate, that's not one of your buckets. So it gets to the same end point. So we may not speak that much, but when I have something, I'll reach out to you,
Yeah.
or our frequency of contact might be once a quarter, just to let you know I'm thinking about you or to check in. Whereas if I have something for you, we may be in contact daily.
Correct.
And so-
That right there is what I would say more often than not ending the discussion. You might hear from me tomorrow. You might hear from me next week. Right? I might have jobs for you immediately, and you're going to have 3 emails in your inbox by the time you get home.
I always thought, though, that, and this is where companies' metrics kind of mess things up, is that if you thought enough of the person to bring them in, they must have some basic level of qualification that you wanted to bring them in. And therefore, even if it turns out probably not a real placeable person right now, but they're probably still worth a quarterly or twice a year reach out, right? That's part of relationship building. That's part
100%.
of being a good recruiter. I think too often what happens is recruiters who are driven by corporate metrics, I got to meet so many people every week, so they bring in some turds who they know they'll never place. And
I hope that's not true, but I know it is at the
you
same
know what
time.
happens.
I know.
So
it's
we're
the
talking
worst.
real. Recruiters bring in.
It's the worst.
Recruiters bring in turds. They know they're never going to place them. Because they're not going to place them, they either forget or they intentionally don't put them in their queue to call them back. So now the candidate walks out feeling hopeful, never gets followed up with, and then what? Now they just become another person who has a negative viewpoint of our industry.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that is an isolated problem with companies that mandate certain number of meetings.
Right.
And I can understand that. There's also another dynamic where the majority of very large staffing companies tend to hire college graduates. So you're absolutely going to meet with people that really don't know what they're doing yet, even if they mean the absolute best. They may not really understand what you do, and therefore they don't get back to you because they really don't get it. Or they might send you bad job descriptions, and they might not even be doing it on purpose. In addition to the fact that it's a sales industry, there's just a lot of turnover. So if you're not hearing back from a recruiter, I think even calling the front desk or whatever of that company and saying, "Hey, is so and so still there?" If they're still there, you can ask for them and try and figure it out. Like, why is it that I haven't heard back from you? Mm-hmm. And there might be a very reasonable explanation, or you can feel free and ask for another recruiter.
Yeah.
That's not unfounded. It's not unbelievably rude. Just saying like I haven't had a great experience with this person because I'm expecting minimum amounts of follow-up. Now, I would set the stage with people like I'll be reaching out to you when I have openings. Things change every single day, even throughout the day, all day long it changes. Jobs come available, jobs that we thought were filled are all of a sudden not filled. Like there's 1,000 things that happen. But I encourage them, feel free to reach out to me anytime you want, but I'm probably just going to be replying back saying, don't have anything right now, but as soon as I do, I'll let you know. Mm-hmm. I would like our industry to operate that way as much as possible, and that's kind of the message that I'm preaching here regularly. But everybody has their own idiosyncrasies, and let's be honest, sometimes you just have a bad apple. You got a bad egg. You got a bad recruiter. You got a bad sales guy. Like, it just happens.
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to switch around. It just is what it is. But for the most part, again, if you're being ignored, someone's telling you they don't really care.
Right.
And if you're ignoring somebody, whether you know it or not, you're telling them you don't really care. So I think the crux of this entire discussion is, if you know this and it drives you crazy, we should try and be respectful to people trying to get a hold of us. Mm-hmm. If you don't know this and you're kind of oblivious to it and you don't really think that you're being rude by ignoring somebody, there's a really good chance that they're perceiving you that way.
Yeah.
And whether it's a buddy in the hockey association or a friend at church or a family member, a spouse, a colleague, like everyone's going to be experiencing being ignored very, very different. Mm-hmm. And if you're the type of person that even unintentionally is ignoring people, you just have to know that you're running the risk of making people think you don't give a shit, even if you do. So that's the moral of the story for me.
And that's that.
That's that. Episode number 7, I Don't Give a Crap, is over. We will see you again next week with another topic. We have a few guests booked here over the next month, so we'll be introducing people for some different dynamics.
Exciting.
No doubt. We will see you next time. You just got done listening to Hire and Fire, a production by Pyra Consulting. Please check us out online on either LinkedIn, Facebook, or our website at pyraconsulting.com. That's PIRA consulting.com.